Hey dude, can I be your friend?
I'm gonna have you roll for it.
Okay, deal.
Yeah, no.
Sule! The COSMERE RPG is finally here! I can't believe it. It feels like it's only been exactly 22 days and 1 hour since Emberdark dropped. Oh well, the machine keeps moving. We here at Lightcallers have been poring over the content in the RPG, looking for any crazy hints or secrets hidden within. And we found some crazy stuff that you won't believe. Or you will, because it's in there. First, we want to give a special thanks to the team over at the Metalworks for all of their hard work integrating the RPG into the Foundry virtual tabletop. Their work here is incredible, and you might even get the chance to see a Lightcaller or two play the RPG using Foundry over on Brotherwise's channel soon.
Figured it out.
There you go. Oh no.
Well.
All right,
well.
It's been a great session, guys.
Dylan, thanks for joining us.
We will personally be using the Foundry system to show off all the sweet lore we found. And if you're interested in getting involved in Foundry, check out the links we have below. But let's get back to the lore. Today there will be spoilers for the Stormlight Archive, so if you care, you've been warned. Also, 71% of you aren't subscribed right now, and that's embarrassing. Subscribe. With that out of the way now, let's begin with some of the new lore about the Knights Radiant. If you watched our Radiant breakdown video here, then you know that one very specific type of Radiant Armorspren was highly controversial in the lore, the Skybreaker Armorspren. We got a 2023 Words of Brandon, where Brandon himself stated that a Skybreaker's armor would be made of gravitation spren. The only problem is, well, he was wrong.
Impossible.
It felt all kinds of wrong that a deck of playing cards was the original reveal of the true armor spren for the Skybreakers, these being luck spren. Thankfully, the RPG World Guide came to our rescue. We can now say that with two sources of canon lore, Skybreaker armor is made up of luck spren, not gravitation spren. These are the spren that hang around sky eels and bond with great shells. They're also known as Mandras and Shadesmar, and they're used as steeds to pull ships. It is technically still possible that luck spren and gravitation spren are the same thing, but I'm not so certain. Gravitation spren are specifically mentioned 2 times in these books. One is this typo in the Dustbringer section of the World Guide, and the other is related to the process of singers bonding gravitation spren to access work form. Since both spren are distinctly described in these books and they're never related, I think it's safe to assume that Skybreakers do not have gravitation spren armor. The Knights Radiant section of the rulebook actually reveals quite a bit more about the Radiant ideals to us. Since in-game any character can swear up to the 4th ideal of their order, we actually get to know all of their ideals. Well, at least the 2nd and the 3rd ideal, since the 4th ideals are essentially based on vibes. Also, Bondsmiths are not playable, so we get nothing on that. Since we already know the Windrunner, Skybreaker, Edge Dancer, and Lightweaver ideals, we're going to focus on the ones we don't already know. The Dustbringer philosophy is focused on self-mastery. We now know that their 2nd ideal is, to control my power, I will control myself. And their 3rd is, to understand my power, I will understand what power is. I really like that the Order, with arguably the most destructive powers, is so focused on self-control. This gives big Spider-Man vibes, and I really hope we get some positive examples of Dustbringers in the latter 5 books. It also helps to explain why Roshar hasn't been constantly carpet-bombed by the Dustbringers. They seem to truly value self-control, unlike the Skybreakers that have the tendency to nuke atmospheres. The Truthwatcher philosophy is I will seek truth. We now know that their 2nd ideal is I will seek truth wherever it is hidden, and the 3rd ideal is I will reveal truth to all who seek it. Yeah, so Truthwatchers are kinda snitches, but they can also give the stitches. But really, it's good confirmation that the Truthwatchers are the philosophers of the Radiant Order. Maybe Yasna needs to spend more time chatting with Renarin. Speaking of which, the Elsecaller philosophy is I will reach my potential. We now know that the 2nd and 3rd ideal are actually unique to the individual, much like the Lightweavers. Aww. Each ideal is based on what reaching their potential means to the specific Radiant. It doesn't matter what your profession is. If your primary aim is to be the best you can be, then you can be an Elsecaller. This is not an order for the self-conscious. The Willshaper philosophy is I will seek freedom. We already knew the 2nd ideal, I will seek freedom for those in bondage, but their 3rd ideal is now confirmed to be I will fight oppression blank. And then that's followed by a unique conclusion. The book actually gives the example I will fight oppression even if that oppression comes from within. These are supposedly the freedom fighters of Roshar, the revolutionaries who stand up for the oppressed. If only Esh and I were still around. Finally, we have the Stoneward philosophy. I will be there when I'm needed. We now know that their 2nd ideal is I will step forward when others fall back. And their 3rd ideal is I will be the foundation on which others can build. Yeah, so that perfectly fits what we see from Dami, the best Knight Radiant ever. Each of the fused are known by the Coalition by their pseudonym, but they actually have a more specific title called their brand. Fananim Nightwatchim, or the Altered Ones, Makayim, or the Deepest Ones, Tatakim, or the Devastating Ones, Shitelim, or the Following Ones, Matachaim, or the Focused Ones, Shaneim, or the Heavenly Ones, Nexim, or the Husked Ones, Mavsedim, or the Masked Ones. There was one brand we didn't know up to this point, and that was the brand for the Magnified Ones, but now we do know, Yazadim. Thank God I got through that. There has been almost constant speculation about Yelig-Nar's ability to wield the Surge of Adhesion. The Surge shared by the Bondsmiths and Windrunners. Honor Surge just so happens to be the only Surge there's no brand of fused for. There's still speculation that there might be a secret 10th form of power, and that might be related to L somehow. But right now, even the ancient fused scholars believe there are only 9. Thankfully, the RPG World Guide puts to rest the speculation, sharing that Yelig-Nar cannot in fact give the Surge of Adhesion to his puppets. Now this is interesting for a lot of reasons. Odium's number 9 is seen as unholy to Honor, and it would seem that having one less Surge would make him less powerful, or rather flexible, than Honor. But I don't think that's true. We see Odium corrupt the Truespren, and when he does, the corrupted Radiants gain access to Fortune, a Surge seemingly outside of Honor's system, yet found on places like Scadrial. We have a theory about these other Surges coming soon, so subscribe if you don't want to miss it. So apparently Bondsmiths can get Squires? Yes, the Squire mechanic is unique in the RPG for Bondsmiths, as you can only ever be a Squire and never a full Bondsmith as a playable character. Apparently the whole access to infinite investiture thingy was a little too much to balance out. Regardless, this cool mechanic reveals to us that Bondsmiths can have Squires who gain access to the Bondsmith Surges. Maybe one day our catatonic Navani will wake up to her Artifabrians adhesioning each other to the walls. Cultivation is a truly mysterious shard. Aside from being in an unbelievably long situationship with Tanner Avast, we know very little of the shard or vessel. One thing that did stand out to us in Cultivation's World Guide blurb was her Alethi name, Koravari. At least that's how she was addressed by the Alethi of Desolation's past. Could this be the name of the dragon in her human form? We can assume Koravellium Avast is a rather proper title, so Koravari might be her less formal name. Speaking of cultivation, the Nightwatcher is a creepy, awesome, and mysterious entity. In Wind and Truth Chapter 21, we hear this about her from the sibling. The Nightwatcher came from the night, as the Stormfather came from the wind. This crazy reveal began to open up a new understanding of the Bondsmith Squires origins. Then one little blurb from the World Guide gave us a new, interesting look at the Nightwatcher specifically, from Chapter 3 of the Roshar World Guide. However, she, the Nightwatcher, doesn't resemble humans as closely in appearance or mindset as do most sapient Spren. Instead, she's closer to her original form as the primal Spren of night. The Nightwatcher was made from the night like the sibling tells us, but this makes it sound more involved. Instead of just being modeled after the night herself was her original form. Did Cultivation rip a piece of the night away to make this creation? Or did Cultivation fully turn the night into the Nightwatcher? Like, unmaking her? It absolutely shares her investiture, but is the Nightwatcher truly more of the night than of the shard? What will happen to the Nightwatcher with Cultivation taking a one-way ticket to anywhere but here? These ancient Spren still leave way more questions than answers, unfortunately. If you've been paying close attention to the COSMERE, you may have heard the term God Beyond. The God Beyond is a mysterious entity that's been briefly touched on in a lot of COSMERE works, yet never elaborated on. Here's all we know. Nomad mentions his belief in the God Beyond in the Sunlit Man Chapter 39. Wayne states that he was made the way he is by the God Beyond in Alloy of Law Chapter 10. He then references the God again in Shadows for Self Chapter 13. Silence and her grandmother have a shrine to the God Beyond in their home on Threnody from Shadows of Silence in the Forests of Hell. Witch shares a parable that references praying to the God Beyond in Words of Radiance Chapter 45. Dalinar calls for the blessing of the God Beyond twice in Rhythm of War. Lessie swears by the God Beyond in the prologue for Shadows of Self. So how can 6 people from 5 different homeworlds all know of the same God? Well, I think it's pretty obvious. This God must be real, and the RPG actually helps us prove it. Chapter 3 of the World Guide has this to say. Most, if not all, planets in the COSMERE have entities in their mythology and powers whom they worship as deities. However, the God Beyond, also known as the Unknown God, is a force that transcends these planar deities. Little is known about the God Beyond, including whether it's related to Adonalsium or to the Beyond, the place where souls are drawn after they die. So the World Guide has just taken these 6 small Easter eggs and confirmed its existence? What I find most interesting is that line, including whether it's related to Adonalsium. That is doing a lot more work here than you might think. The World Guide questioning that fact means that we aren't supposed to know the answer yet. I think it's even likely that the God Beyond is something different from Adonalsium. Maybe even his father? Our 9th reveal will be fittingly focused on Singer forms. There are 6 categories of forms revealed to us. Forms of finesse, including art form and nimble form. Forms of wisdom, including meditation form and scholar form. Forms of resolve, including war form and work form. Forms of destruction, including dire form and storm form. Forms of expansion, including envoy form and relay form. Finally, the forms of mystery, including decay form and night form. Brandon didn't include the option to access mate form. Thanks to the World Guide, we now know the spren that Singers must bond to access each of these forms. Yes, some of them we already knew, so let's focus on the new ones. As far as the non-forms of power go, Meditation form requires Bind Spren, and Scholar form requires Logic Spren. The more interesting reveal to us here are all the Void Spren required for the forms of power. Dire form requires Callous Spren. Envoy form requires Zealous Spren. How is this not confirmed already? Relay form requires Hate Spren. Decay form requires Blight Spren. And finally, Night form requires Night Spren. Okay, I could have guessed that one. But what do you think? Were you expecting more lore drops? Did we miss any major reveals? Probably. This is a huge book and Emberdark dropped out of nowhere this month. Either way, let us know what you think in the comments below. And please subscribe if you want to support us. Kolo?